Welcome, summoners, to Games Cast by Pan and Nero. If you wish to see more commented games, follow my social media pages below. And yeah, as I have no clue what these teams are, I expect fairly standard bans. I'm not sure how much they played each other, but yeah, Orianna, likely something like a Kha'Zix ban, several other kind of standard bans. Well, apparently they might have played each other, considering Twisted Fate's ban. Twisted Fate's not a very common ban, but very important when teams actually play Twisted Fate. If you have a really good Twisted Fate player, he can make a world of difference. Okay, there we go. And looks like Lee Sin up next. Not sure why you're banning Lee Sin. There's so many good junglers at this point. Jungle bans just aren't that really important unless they want to ban Lee Sin top. Or apparently they're just going to keep banning Mumu as well, following with junglers. There's the Kha'Zix ban. And here I'm not so sure. I'd like to see something, probably a Blitzcrank ban, as no one wants to deal Blitzcrank. Eve ban, as her roam power is incredibly powerful. And it looks like it's Malphite, with Ryze being first picked. Interesting choice. I really wouldn't expect Ryze to be first picked. I don't see him as being that highly contested at the moment. He's a good champion, but there are a lot of good mid-lane champions at the moment. Looks like Lulu might be first up for RisC. And we will likely see something along the AD carrier jungler here. Could also be a mid laner, but I don't think they want to pick a mid laner this early, unless they have a really overpowered one. That's kind of why I'm not so sure on the Ryze pick. Ryze is a great champion and all, but he's just not first pick material at the moment. Looks like they are still going to be fooling around for a moment, and it might be Cho'Gath Sona. I can get behind that as an early first pick. Cho'Gath can either go top, mid, or jungle, with Sona being a fairly standard support. And that is Cho'Gath locked in. I do hope he goes jungle, as jungle Cho'Gath is just so incredibly good. And they decided to switch it up and go with Ezreal. Another very safe, very solid pick. And that might be an Eve in the jungle. Eve does incredible things in the jungle because she can just bypass wards and gank all game long. And let's turn this down a little bit. Okay, there we go. And yeah, I definitely see Eve's getting picked up here. She can do a good job against Cho'Gath, as Cho'Gath does have a little bit of trouble with that first clear. And she can go out and really apply a lot of pressure to him and keep him from ganking early, if she really wants to. And she can also just escape early, as there's no pink wards on the map, with the exception of maybe one bottom lane. And she can use that to snowball a very nice advantage early game. Misfortune might be picked up here. Misfortune would be a decent pick against Ezreal, as they do scale fairly similarly, other than Ezreal's Essence Shift, or Arcane Shift, is incredibly powerful, and is probably the one reason you do pick Ezreal, is it allows you to basically instantly escape every single situation. And there we go, we do have Eve and Misfortune locked in. That's going to be a lot of ability power for the ANEXIS team, I believe is what their title states. Though that's not what they're actually marked out on the tournament, but whoop-de-doo. Looks like we might see an Anivis Sona is what they're showing. Anivis is does decently against Ryze. They both scale fairly well into the late game while having a bit of trouble early game. Though Ryze is very nice early, with the Rune Prison basically being impossible to miss. And it really can set up a nice Eve gank, depending upon what support's picked. They could easily do a 3-man roam mid, pick up first blood on Anivis, and remove her egg. And without her egg, Anivis feels very weak early game, and has played extremely safe, as her movement and auto attacks are ridiculously slow. And every single time, no, it looks like they're switched for Olaf at the last second. That's actually a very nice pick, Sona going with Olaf. As you don't know where Cho'Gath or Olaf's going, they could either go top, jungle, or even have a mid lane Cho'Gath. And now, it's going to be hard to decide what the ANEXIS is going to pick up here. They have a lot of options. They need a support. They need a likely top laner or jungler, depending upon how they want to use Eve. But I think they're going to go support and top laner with Eve jungling. Looks like Lulu is what's being shown. And Zhao, I do like that pick. It gives him a lot of team fight power. And another AoE ultimate, because they have Ryze with an sort of AoE ultimate, Misfortune AoE ultimate. We have Eve and Zhao with AoE ultimates. That'd be 4 fairly strong AoE ultimates they could all throw together. And combine that off with Lulu's Glitter Lance, and that'd be really powerful team fight combo. And they'd also be incredibly tanky, as Lulu makes anyone tanky, and Zhao jumping in the middle of the team, getting popped with a wild growth, would be incredibly dangerous. And I actually really like that team comp. They've got Eve and Misfortune who can really get the early game going, while having Ryze, Zhao, and Lulu that can snowball the late game and make them incredibly potent at all points in the game. And I really think they have a good shot at winning this. But it all depends upon the last choice over here for RisC. I'm not sure what they're going to go with, as they've kind of been troll picking most of the game, or showing something and then picking something else. But I do think Eveyor would be a pretty good choice here, as she could easily isolate out someone like Ryze, Misfortune, Lulu, and then just kind of disengage the fight. Though it will be a bit difficult with Zhao being able to just jump in and slow everyone, in addition to Lulu slowing with her Glitter Lance if she decides to help him out. And yes, it will be Eveyor. And I definitely can get behind this Eveyor pick. It's a great choice here. It comes with great AoE lockdown, a nice slow that can, and the wall can really separate that team out. And if they can prevent ANEXIS from having that AoE team fight, I think they will have a good shot at winning these. They also have Olaf who can jump in there and get on someone like Misfortune or Ryze. And I'm not sure who they're actually going to go with for jungle. They have 2 smites up. Unless they want to go double jungle, but on a game like this, double jungle just does not seem like it'd be very effective. And I really think it's going to be... I'd go with Cho'Gath in the jungle, but either one's a perfectly viable pick. I just like Cho'Gath in the jungle, though both Olaf and Cho'Gath are top tier junglers at the moment. And it looks like they might be trying to run Eve up top or mid lane with Zhao in the jungle. That'd be an interesting turn of events. And it looks like Zhao will be in the jungle with either Ryze or Eve top. Interesting choices there, as I'm not so certain I like that compared to having Zhao top and the Eve roaming around the jungle, as Eve's ganks from the jungle are really potent, though in competitive play she does get her roam shut down a good bit from mid lane. And it looks like we are going to have double teleports out on Eveyor and Olaf with Cho'Gath in the jungle. We have Cleanse picked up on Ezreal, and we have the teleport up on Ryze, with heal and barrier being taken down by that bottom lane of ANEXIS. And that should keep them pretty safe down bottom. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of ganks, especially when they see both of those defensive summoners popped. Though the problem is they don't have an exhaust. And especially with that high damage of someone like Ezreal or Olaf, an exhaust is really helpful for keeping their damage output at check and just keeping the AD carry safe. But apparently they're going to play to win the lane really hard, and they do have a good shot at it, as Ezreal Sona isn't particularly powerful. It's a very safe, steady lane, and they should be able to farm up till late game. But if Misfortune and Lulu decide to put on some pressure, they should have a good shot of at least bullying Ezreal or Sona back and making it a 1v2 lane and kind of keeping them a level or 2 down. That's how they're going to have to win that bottom lane. As for the mid lane, I'm not sure if it's going to be Eve or Ryze. I think it'll be Eve here, as Eve is a much better roamer than Ryze. Ryze has very little roaming power, and that's why you kind of pick Eve. Is you pick Eve to roam and snowball the mid game. And it looks like Eve versus Eveyor will be a decent matchup, as Eveyor does kind of stop Eve in the early game, as she is ranged compared to Eve's melee. But Eve should be just fine, using those hate spikes to just keep herself farming rather nicely. And the big thing here will be how well Eve roams. If Eve can roam and pick up a few easy kills, they're going to snowball to victory. That team is so incredibly snowbally, with Zhao, Eve, Misfortune, Lulu, Ryze. They all snowball incredibly hard if they get to the late game. But if Eveyor does have a good shot at preventing the roam, if she can just kind of keep Eve away from actually being allowed to roam, and applying pressure by every time Eve gets in the lane, landing a Flash Frost on top of her, landing her rest of her abilities, and really just keeping her in that kind of 60 to 70% health area. She doesn't need to get her lower than that, because Eve doesn't really want to roam unless she's near full health, as that could easily be turned around by a big Cho'Gath Rupture or a nice big chunk of Feast. And okay, finally getting into this game, as I do think Cho'Gath will have the advantage over Zhao early, as he does get his big CC abuse earlier, and they're just a little bit more reliable. Zhao requires hitting the target 3 times, and that's fairly difficult early game. Late game, it's not as bad, as Zhao usually picks up a fair bit of movement speed, and just becomes a real tanky force. But Cho'Gath will have his Feast available at 6, and he should put out some really good burst damage. And that silence could mess up a big combo. And there we go. And it looks like we are going to see a few more skins for the RisC team, as they do pick up 3 with the Jurassic Cho'Gath, Arcade Sona, and Pentakill Olaf, while only Triumphant Ryze and Imperial Zhao are up on the ANEXIS team. And I really think ANEXIS is going to have a massive advantage here if they can start getting that roam on. And I will pick them as my team this game, as they just seem to have a better mid-game, and that could snowball into late game so incredibly easily, especially with people like Ryze and Eve, who do incredibly well late game. And I think the RisC team just picked a little safe for my liking. If they picked something else mid besides Anivis, I think I would pick them as my winners for the end game, but they didn't. I just don't like Anivis that well against Eve, even though she does well. Anivis does well in lane against Eve. Eve just has so much roam potential, and Anivis really can't stop it unless she lands a full combo on Eve. And I think Eve is going to just walk around most of those combos, or play it safe, just farm with the hate spike and try to stay away. But we shall see as this game does go on. And come on, Sona, you can finish loading up here. I'm in the mood to get started. And there we go. Looks like nothing too special coming out the early game, though we do have some. Looks like there might be an invade from the blue team, as they have signaled for it. But there might just be defensive positions as well. Yeah, I think it looks like defensive positions from that ping down bottom. And it looks like the red team is going to just kind of group up around blue buff. Neither team wanting to get too aggressive here, as both of them have fairly strong level 1s. With Ryze with a Rune Prison, Lulu with Glitter Lance, Eve with a bunch of damage with Hate Spike, and Misfortune with that double up, going to do a ton of damage. But they also have Anivis with one of the best level 1 fighting abilities in the game. Cho'Gath with one of the best level 1 fighting abilities. And Olaf with the highest level 1 DPS thanks to his chaining of axes. I really don't want to see a level 1 fight come out here, even though I do think the red team would win it pretty handily. Their level 1 team fight is ridiculous, because if they land a Flash Frost, they could easily land a Rupture, and hitting multiple people with those abilities spells their doom. And especially when they can combo that with an Olaf axe. But I don't think anything's going to happen. They're just going to kind of sit around and wait it out. Yeah, looks like Zhao might be starting red buff, as he is down there in that area, or unless he just wants to do Ray. I think he's going to go for the fast double buffs, going with Wraiths, red buff, then right over to blue buff. As I think he was a little bit scared of actually fighting a level 1 fight, which is why they didn't go for blue buff right off the bat. In case he wants to try for both buffs, though he could be just trying to help the top lane. There is a lane swap going on here, with Ezreal and Sona going up top to fight Eve. Eve has decided to go top instead of mid lane, and that actually works out fairly well for Eve. Looks like Olaf has taken blue buff and is going to be 2v1ing down bottom. Olaf, one of the best 2v1 laners in the game, thanks to his axes. But Eve should do just fine up top, as long as she stays away, she can last it well with a hate spike, and she can just kind of sit in experience range. not having to worry about getting killed. I'm not so sure this lane swap was such a good idea. They were probably thinking Ryze was up top, and they could bully Ryze around pretty handily. But he's not. Ryze decided to go mid against Eveyor. And I don't think it's going to work out in either team's advantage a whole lot. I think Olaf's going to get a little bit more CS thanks to having blue buff, but not as significantly. And it looks like Ryze and Eveyor are going to trade farm. There's Fortune down bottom, going to apply some good damage to Olaf. Olaf has opted for a fairly regen-heavy build. You don't have any other surprises other than the boots up top on Eve. And it's actually interesting Miss Fortune started with the Durance Blade. I've not seen the Durance Blade start in a while, but she's doing some good damage to Olaf. Though taking a bit of damage, and looks like Xin Zhao's going to come in here for the gank. And there will be first blood picked up by Xin Zhao. Nice gank by him. They should have expected something like that to happen. If you get in a 2v1 lane, Xin Zhao immediately went for double buffs, like I was saying, and then he ganked down bottom. And there was no way he was going to be able to gank up top. But the nice tower dive like that Olaf's going to burn his teleport here. Take a bit of damage on the way in, but he should be okay now. He has picked up a cloth armor, and he's going to really prevent that harass. Though Eve up top is going to be farming just fine. She is kind of stuck under tower, but no real worries from her, as she does have enough damage to easily last hit. She is down a little bit to Olaf, but Olaf giving up that first blood is really kind of frustrating for him, as they were the ones who initiate the 2v1 lane swap. So we do have Ryze taking good bit of damage, and the Rupture will land, but he is able to flash out at the last second, and he should be okay here. But that means Eveyor will get a good bit of free farm. The lanes are swapping as Misfortune and Lulu are coming up top, and they won't. Ezreal and Sona won't be able to actually take this tower down. They got it fairly low, but not low enough, as you really need to kill that tower if you're going to lane swap and give up first blood. Looks like we are going to have Cho'Gath waiting here in the middle lane, but no, he's not doing anything, as Zhao does jump in on Eveyor, and Eveyor does get low. And I really wish I had control of this directed camera, but oh well, as Ryze does jump in there and lands the Rune Prison on Cho'Gath, with Xin Zhao flashing in for the kill. And that's a double buff refresh on Xin Zhao, and that is not what you want to see. This Xin Zhao is going to be out of control late game. Even though he's not farming particularly well, he has picked up first blood and an additional kill, and he's reset his double buff, which means he is going to be a true terror throughout this game. Anivis is going to burn her teleport in mid lane. And that means both teleports by the red side are going to be down, and RisC is going to be in a bit of trouble with those teleports down, as they kind of needed to roam with them. Looks like lanes have swapped again, with Olaf coming back up top. Misfortune and Lulu are still up there, though I think they are going to lane swap back fairly soon, as Eve is back in base, but no, apparently not. Apparently they're just going to let Eve farm just fine. And I wouldn't mind if they just wanted to let this top tower kind of go, as the top tower is not that important this game, as both top laners are going to be able to roam pretty freely no matter what they do. Looks like Xin Zhao is going to come for a gank down bottom. So he's going to apply some good damage to Ezreal, but they are going to go for Sona, as Sona does flash. But Xin Zhao is in there with the knock-up, and he picks up the kill. This Eve is doing a very good job of just kind of staying at experience range, not getting harassed too much, and letting Xin Zhao really carry this game. Xin Zhao has picked up a Wriggle's Lantern. We do see two other guys picked up on both mid laners. Xin Zhao is going to be running here for Ezreal, as Eve does pop her ultimate. And nice move by Xin Zhao, waiting for the Arcane Shift and Flash to pop. And this Xin Zhao is pretty legendary this game. And I kind of regret saying that I liked him better top, because he is doing a wonderful job in this jungle. Ryze is doing some good damage on Eveyor, but he will not be able to get in range. His flash is not up, so he couldn't flash for the last hit. But he does push Eveyor out of lane, especially at a crucial time here where Eveyor just needs to sit back and farm and wait for late game. Looks like they are going to blue team is going to be two-manning this dragon, and it is taken down with relative ease. Looks like Olaf is coming up top. Olaf is going to be harassed pretty hard up top, and will be taken down by Misfortune. And yeah, this lane swap is not working out very well. I thought it would do okay if Olaf just set back, but Lulu was doing a great job of walking up and really applying pressure to that lane. Lulu is just keeping Olaf harassed and not allowing him to really get anything done. And on the other hand, Eve is getting basically pretty decent farm, and she has picked up the Doran's ring in addition to the Sorcerer's Shoes and an Amplifying Tome. Looks like Lulu's going for the Philosopher's Stone, and they might even try and take this top tower if they so choose. We do have Misfortune picking up the Doran's Blade and Longsword. Ryze going for the pure mana as usual. We do have Cho'Gath picking up the Sight Stone, or Spirit Stone, excuse me. And we do have Doran's Blade, Longsword, and Boots up onto Ezreal. First tower of the game is taken by the blue team up top. Looks like Zhao is coming down here. Will he be able to get in range for anything? Her ultimate's on cooldown for another few seconds. If she had waited for the ultimate, they might have been able to get this. Or apparently not. She can just solo Eve in a 2v1 lane. And that does not spell well if your 2v1 lane is actually losing and giving up kills. And this just feels bad for the RisC team. Their lanes just are not working out. It's not that they were really outdrafted that much. It's that they gave up the first blood, they gave up a few other kills, and really just got... really that lane swap just really hurt them. I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, but it has really been a disappointment to see how badly that lane swap works, especially if you initiate it. If that happens when you're on the receiving end, it's not as bad. But when you start it, it's pretty demoralizing. We do have Misfortune picking up a BF sword. Sorcerer Shoes up on Ryze. Mercury Treads on Zhao. We do have a Vampiric Scepter up on Ezreal. And the lanes have swapped back to normal now. It looks like Ezreal Sona might be heading top, though I'm not sure how much help that's going to be, as Olaf would have a decent time against Eve. Though this will be second tower of the game taken by the blue team. ANEXIS doing a great job of pressuring these towers and really snowballing off that early kill. It looks like we have Sona and Olaf finishing up Philosopher's Stones, Boots, and a bunch of potions and wards. And it looks like the red team is looking to actually just go take this tower, though Eve's going to just go pressure Ezreal. I like this decision. Eve's ult is down, but there's a teleport, and Ryze teleports right into Ezreal. And this is not going to go very well. Sona's going to be taken down here by Ryze. The question is, will Eve be taken down? No. As Zhao jumps in there, and a triple kill by Ryze. And that's not what you wanted to see happen, as every single person of ANEXIS is doing a great job this game. They are snowballing it so incredibly well. It's ridiculous at this point. Eveyor has gone for a Catalyst, luckily into a Rod of Ages, and play for late game, as that's their only chance at this point. RisC has no chance unless they just sit and wait for late game, but I don't think that's going to happen. As Zhao jumps on Eveyor, there's the egg. Both flash up here, and that's an easy egg kill. With Zhao picking it up. Zhao sitting at 303. Ryze 302. Eve 302. And Misfortune 102 with a ridiculous gold lead, sitting at about 8,000 or so. And it's going to get even bigger as they are looking to push down this mid tower. And I am not sure Sona can actually defend this. Misfortune has caught Cho'Gath out in the jungle, and Cho'Gath's taking a good bit of damage, but the Rupture lands. Though Zhao does jump in there, and that is a dead Cho'Gath. And this will be another tower taken down, extending the lead even further. And I'm just not sure what the RisC team can do at this point. They just got beaten on every single lane. The mid lane was the only one that... And there's just a myriad of other problems going on here. And I'm really just not sure what they can do to actually come back. Misfortune has completed a BF sword. We do see Lulu picking up the Sightstone and Kage's lucky pick. Rod of Ages up on Ryze. Looks like we're going to have a Brutalizer coming out for Zhao. We do have Eve going for the Super Penetration build. And I'm not sure what Cho'Gath's going for with the Ruby Crystal and Spirit Stone. Eveyor likely going for the Rod of Ages. We do have Berserker Greaves, Vampiric Scepter, and Doran's Blade up onto Ezreal. Sona's picked up the Philosopher's Stone Boots, Ninja Tabi, and Philosopher's Stone, likely into a Ruby, Kindle Gem up onto Olaf. So Cho'Gath tried to get a gank up on Eve, but Eve's just really hard to gank unless you have a pink ward in the area to kind of spot her out. So Zhao's jumping in on to Olaf, and Olaf's going to be taken down pretty easily. So with his ultimate and Ghost, it is a bit of a challenge, but not too much for this Ryze, who is incredibly fed at this point. Especially thanks to that triple kill up top. That was really what snowballed him. He was fighting Anivis pretty evenly. But the second he burned his teleport and picked up 3 kills, this game snowballed completely out of control. It was already basically over before that point. But giving up those 3 kills top, allowing them to pick up mid tower, an additional bottom tower, means that this is barely a game at this point. The only thing they can do is pray Anivia's wave clear is strong enough to let them survive until everyone has 5-6 items and they're back on even footing. But I don't think the ANEXIS team is going to allow that. They're really just going to snowball through and finish this off. Looks like Ryze is going to jump in on Cho'Gath, and Cho'Gath gets pretty low. Looks like we have Eve jumping up onto Sona, and Sona does get taken down. Blue buff stolen by ANEXIS, and they are going to run up mid as Cho'Gath gets pretty low, and I think they can just straight push mid at this point. They could tower dive if they want. Their front line is tanky enough, and their back line does a ridiculous amount of damage. And yeah, I'm just not sure what the RisC team can do this game. As Ryze jumps in there and bursts down an Eveyor before she even gets a chance to wave clear. And without her wave clears, they don't have a good way of really keeping these minions at bay. They can burn Rupture and Feral Scream a few times, possibly even a few pokes from Ezreal, but I don't think that's enough damage to really stop them. As Cho'Gath does take a few hits, and will be going fairly low, but Misfortune just going to tank up the tower, and this should be the first inhibitor of the game at about 14:45, assuming that they don't back up here. But I don't think they really need to back up here. They see Olaf up top, but apparently they will. Though it looks like they're just going to go take this last outer tower, and that'll be 7 towers to 6 as soon as this one goes down. And at 13,000, soon to be closer to 14,000 gold lead. We do have Ryze going for the Abyssal Scepter. We have Zane going to pick up his Brutalizer pretty soon. Looks like Ezreal is either going to go for Infinity Edge or Last Whisper. I think he's better off going Infinity Edge, as he needs damage, and his team desperately needs damage. They aren't going to be able to play it safe and go for items like Bloodthirster, which give them kind of the mix of survivability and damage. They have to go basically pure damage at this point and hope to win a team fight with a big AoE stun combo of Anivis, Flash Frost, Cho'Gath Rupture, and Sona's Crescendo. Looks like Olaf has picked up nothing much. Yeah, he's finished Ninja Tabi off, and still the Ruby Crystal likely going to go destroy his Reverie to hopefully catch someone out. Brutalizer up on Zhao and Misfortune. We do see Ruby Sightstone and the full penetration build completed by Eve. And it looks like the blue team is just kind of waiting, try and capture someone off in their own jungle, in the red team's jungle. As you see Ryze come up here, and that's a dead Sona. No chance of the Sona surviving. This Ryze is just way too far ahead at this point. Looks like Misfortune all does go across, and Zhao will pick it up. And that should be the first inhibitor of the game down now. I thought they were going to just wait and get it earlier, but apparently not. Zhao has picked up an Oracles, and all outer towers are now down. And this just has been a snowball from the word go. The red team on RisC tried to make something happen early game, but there was just not a chance. The lane swap failed really hard, and they gave up first blood. The Nexus just knew how to play this, and they are the better team in this situation. No question about it, as Eve runs in, and that should be good game. With Olaf just barely living. The question is, will Ryze go down? No, he will not, as everyone is fairly low. But the Lulu will pop her summoner heal and be just fine. As they do take down the second inhibitor at about 17 minutes. And this is just not going the way RisC wanted. ANEXIS has snowballed this game so far out of control, it's ridiculous. As I said, the lane swap didn't work, even though it probably should have. Olaf just never really got the 2v1. Lulu played it so incredibly well, harassing every single chance she got, and kept her down. It kept the Olaf down so far, he couldn't really do anything. And they never got to push that top tower down early. It still stands at this point, as the Eve could just farm and wave clear fairly well. He did a great job of just kind of sneaking around the outside of minions, and really just clearing the wave just enough so they couldn't put major damage on the tower. Looks like Barrett will be attempted here and taken down with no contention, as two waves of super minions this early is almost impossible to deal with, as they just don't have any damage on the RisC side. And it looks like Nasher's down, and we have see Ryze popping his teleport. He's going to go split push bottom. I think they're all going to go run there and push right through bottom, as there's no chance of anyone on the right team stopping them. It's just been a snowball game. We do see Cho'Gath going for the Aegis of the Legion, along with the Spirit Stone. We do have an Eveyor trying to fill up that tier, but here comes Eve putting out some big damage on her, and there's just not a whole lot an Eveyor can do. She's just too immobile for this really mobile lineup. Cho'Gath does land a nice rupture. Well, this will be the last inhibitor game going down at the 19-minute mark, and they can easily push the base here.
Red team's inhibitor has been destroyed.
And it looks like that will be a good game, with the ANEXIS team just snowballing into victory and really taking advantage of that lane swap that was kind of forced on them. And this should be a good game. The super minions and the entire team barrel through. And yeah, nothing more to say than that was a snowball. That was a complete and utter snowball. No real chance for the RisC team in that game. And there's a quick look at the in-game score screen. Nothing too fancy, as you could see the items, and there was not even a single death for the ANEXIS team. They did so incredibly well that game. And now, is there going to be another game up on this stream? I'm not sure if there's going to be another game up on this stream. So let me go mute my mic, throw up some music, and we will fiddle with what's next. Thank you for watching Games Cast by Panorel. For more commented games, please visit my YouTube and stream channels.